In this video, I'm going to be reading the poems that were inspired by Adriana Dascalu's Haiku Random Thoughts. A few of them relate to historical events, and I'll be providing some links to information about those events for those of you who may not know about them or are interested in learning a little bit about them. Other than that, there won't be very many comments that will interrupt the reading of the poems. Lotus position, rhythmic breathing exercise, searching for nothing. Regrets, creeping forward in first gear while looking for reverse. Asymptotic verse, blind vultures circling a feast of dead poets. A thought, a poem, spoken, heard, written, read. How much is lost in translation? July 5th, 1995. If I asked Bob Ross why my happy little clouds have started crying, would he tell me that it's just a little passing shower? If you don't know who Bob Ross was, or haven't watched The Joy of Painting, then the illusion that's made in this poem isn't really going to make a lot of sense. Also, the date, which is the title of the poem, was the day that he died, and so that also adds significance to what is going on in it. Tiny blue marble. Earth seen from space. A photographic image that made the world stand still. Tiny blue marble is a play on words, and the poem relates to the first photograph of Earth that was taken from outer space. And I'll provide a link to the image, and you can take a look at it if you want to. But basically, that photograph changed the world because it put our planet and us into a completely different context. And we suddenly saw how small and fragile we really are on this planet. Season's greetings. Repacking Christmas decorations on New Year's. Finding Easter eggs. In case you aren't watching the video, you should do so for this poem since one of the words in it is a homophone of another one that would completely change the meaning of the poem. Out of the foxhole, my faith eroding a little piece at a time. Sunyata, student. How many hours must I sit in quiet contemplation, holding origami butterflies with misshapen wings? Master, until that question no longer matters. Personal ad. Single white female seeks handsome male roommate with low expectations. Nightlight surrounded by gossamer ghosts, moths seeking the tunnel's end. May 6th, 1937. The Hindenburg lost. A spark of humanity that went up in flames. If you're not familiar with the Hindenburg disaster, there is a clip of a news report at the time that it happened that I'm drawing upon in order to create this poem. And I'm essentially manipulating the words of that broadcast to create it. And that adds additional meaning to it if you are familiar with that video recording. So I'm going to provide a link to that video in case you want to watch it and see what I drew upon to write this poem. Freezing and thawing and freezing. Nature's indecisiveness. Lightning and thunder. Windows rattle and doors shake. Perfect harmony. Blistering heat wave. Zen master contemplating the sweat on his brow. Still air and calm lake. Faint glimmer of distant stars. Rotting garbage bags. Existential angst. How absurd is life? Less absurd than a life spent thinking about life's absurdities. Footsteps echoing from the hollowed temple walls, ghosts of Buddha's past. Spring cleaning. Garage sale. The tables full of old baby clothes and toys. A treasure trove of memories gone stale. Empty nest. Once upon a time in a land far, far away, the princess still reigns, and I, her faithful servant, still tell her bedtime stories. Transcendent darkness descends upon my nightmares. A single star shines. Growling dog. Nightlight. Squeaking door. Shotgun cocking. How fast can you run? Virgin sun peeking over the horizon. Wretched morning breath. Light gesso canvas. Pastel palette. Green sky. Blue grass. Unrepentant sins. Confessions left unspoken. Cold, hard steel chair. Buzz of electricity. Roadside memorial. A weathered wooden cross tilts toward the sunset, pointing the way home. In order to understand the next poem, it would help to be familiar with five-man electrical band's song Signs. So I've provided a link to a video of that song in the description. You may want to watch it before you go through the poem, but you can watch it afterwards as well, and it will likely put the poem into a somewhat different context. June 1972. Neon sign. Tonight only, five-man electrical band. Love the irony. An exercise in trust. Teetering on my heels. Unwilling to fall. A fragment of song. Sad, hauntingly familiar. The stench of your hair. Flaccid blue-gray sky. Indifferent winter clouds. Snow flurries dancing. Reading old poems to relive the memories of someone long dead. Birthday! Another year's crow's feet adding to the flock, scratching out laugh lines. Seductive shower, naked flesh and soap bubbles, tongue behind her ear. Rusty iron gate, ivy-shrouded chapel walls. Nietzsche's God, dying. The next poem is an imitation of Dascalu's poem, and in a very real sense, it's more like a paraphrase of it than it is anything else, because I follow the same sequence, the same idea, and the progression of that idea, and so forth. And so it's basically taking her poem and rewriting it in my own way, which would be a paraphrase if this was an academic work. But since it is a poem, and a crucial element of poetry is the word choices, and that can be even more important than the idea in the poem, the conceit or the metaphor and so forth that's there. And so the originality of a poem frequently comes from the wording more so than the idea itself. Fierce October storm, gnashing lightning, thunder, rain, flowers folding up. The house on the hill stands empty, void of all life, full of memories. Parched earth and brown grass, farmers' tears falling down, crying to end the drought. Murky puddle, fog of hovering mosquitoes, malarial screams. Narcissus in love, honey dappled tongue, sickly sweet soliloquy. Cool, salty sea breeze, a flock of pink flamingos. Ice cold shrimp cocktail. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, press the button for it and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your time.